Hello, I'm Randy from Legacy Sourdough, and today we are going to make the most incredible bread that you have ever tasted. And all the ingredients are right here. Let me show you what we're going to use. First of all, we're going to use a glass bread pan that it's 5 by 9. And this is a typical kind of shape, traditional shape of bread that works out very well. That's typically what I use. And now over here, we're going to use our starter. And this is going to be 75 grams of starter that kind of gets everything together. It's kind of the glue that holds everything together. Then we're going to use 375 grams of water and mix that all together. 500 grams of unbleached all-purpose flour, and then finally the salt. 15 grams of salt, 3%. So let's start putting it all together. It's going to be incredible. So the first thing we need to do, it comes in handy. It's the only thing that makes sense, is to have a scale, a digital kitchen scale. It will measure everything to perfection. That way you can make a consistent loaf of bread every time you bake. So we have our scale. Now I use a large mixing bowl here because when you start putting all this stuff together and start stirring it, you're going to run out of room if you start small. So have a big bowl right here ready to go so that you have room to stir and have fun with it. The first thing that we're going to do is take 75 grams of our starter. Now, get the top starter off the top of the jar. Don't stir it first. The most potent, the most active starter is right here on the surface. So get 75 grams of starter out of your jar. Now, we've got our 75 grams. Now, the next thing that we want to do is get 375 grams of water. This needs to be unchlorinated water. All right, and so pour it in, 375 grams. All right, now we want to take this. This is a Danish dough whisk. And so you stir it all together. Get it all nice and stirred. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is add 500 grams of unbleached all-purpose flour. I want to emphasize it has to be unbleached. Bleach will kill your starter. Chlorine in the water will kill your starter. So don't do that. Use unbleached. Why would you want to put bleach in your body to begin with, right? So put it all in there. And now, the last ingredient, we're going to use 15 grams of salt. Now this is going to be your taste. I would recommend that you start with 15 grams, your first loaf, and then decide if you want it a little saltier, a little less salty, but for me, 15 grams is perfect. So we dump that all together, and this is where that Danish whisk comes in again. We stir it, stir it, stir it, and just start working it. And scrape it off the sides. Now that we have it all stirred together, it's time to let it rest. It takes time for the fermenting, for the yeast, the starter, to work its way through the dough for the bread. And there's no substitute for time. So it's really important to be patient. This is not instant yeast, the kind that you buy in the store. This is quality over convenience. So give it time to proof, to rest for 1 hour. Now, after 1 hour, I'll show you what you need to do. But in the meantime, take a towel and lay it over the top of the bowl and let it rest. It's been 1 hour. And so now we're going to do something very important. Take your time with this. You got to have your hand has got to be wet, and you're going to reach down and give it a nice big tug on all 4 corners. Pull it up, turn it 1/4 turn, pull it up, 1/4 turn, reach down, pull it up from that side, lay it over on itself, and then one more time on all four sides, you pull it up, fill that stretch, fill it stretch. Now it's ready to rest for 30 more minutes, and we're gonna do it again. All right, it's been 30 more minutes and we're ready to do it again. Make sure your hand is wet, and we're going to reach in just like we did before. Now, one of the keys is it's gonna feel different. You might reach in there, and as you're pulling it up, there might even feel some lumps in there. Don't worry about it. Either way, whether you feel the lumps or not, don't worry about it. It's all good. So you reach in, just like before, pull it up. I can tell the difference, all right? And do it again. Kind of turn it a quarter turn, turn it again. Quarter turn, turn and lift it up. Oh, this is going to be a great loaf of bread. And one more time. Fantastic, fantastic. It's been 12 hours since we made our dough, and it's been rising all night. And so this is day 2, and we're ready to start getting the dough prepared for putting in the oven. What we've all been waiting for. The dough looks perfect. Ready to do our final time with it and getting it ready. So you take a spatula and just clear it from the side walls of the pan. Now, I want to take some flour, and we want to begin to take the dough out of the bowl and onto our powdered surface, floured surface. It's beautiful. So bring up the 4 corners again, the 4 sides. Bring it over on top of itself. Turn it. You flip it over and then turn it. Get it a nice tight grip on the bottom of the dough. Once you've turned it a few times, then you want to pick it up and put it on a piece of parchment paper. Parchment paper will serve to give it a barrier between it and the pan. It'll make for super easy cleanup. Now I have a proofing basket here, and just using the parchment paper, cradle it and put it directly into the proofing basket. And we're going to leave it here to proof for another hour. Our bread is resting right now. It is about 30 minutes before we want to put it in the oven. I'm preheating the oven right now at 450 degrees, and we're going to preheat the bread pan and place it right in here. So for the next 30 minutes, getting everything nice and hot and ready for our bread. Our oven has been preheating for the last 30 minutes. Our bread pan has been in there with it, getting nice and hot. Our bread has been proofing in the proofing basket for an hour. And so we're ready to bring it all together and begin to bake our bread. So now let's get the bread pan out of the oven. So we're ready to transfer the dough from the proofing basket to the actual pan for baking. I can feel the heat coming off. So using the parchment paper as a cradle, just gently set it in here and then set the paper back. It's going to be beautiful. It's gonna be a nice, small, crispy loaf of bread. Now that it's in and ready to go, you score it to prevent the oven spring. Just a nice score here. And however you want to do it, there's no wrong way of doing it, but do a nice cut across, and that will open it up so it can raise in the oven. Now we come to the great part of actually putting it in the oven. So we've got everything set, it is scored, it's ready to go. The oven is at 450 degrees. Let's make the magic happen. We're going to leave it in the oven for 41 minutes. That's what the temperature is for my oven. Yours may be a little less, maybe a little more. It can depend on the altitude. It can depend on the humidity. There are a lot of variations here. And so you'll need to experiment the first few loaves for you as to the ideal amount of time. If you have a thermometer, put it in. When it hits about 200 degrees, it's good to go. But experiment. Every loaf will be slightly different, but you'll figure it out for your oven where you live. All right, it's been in the oven right at 41 minutes. It's time. Finally, the prize begins to take place right here in front of us. Let's get it. Now we're going to leave it. Now, this is really where self-discipline comes in. I used to just cut into it right away, put some butter on it, eat it just super hot. The problem is when you do that, it begins to collapse under the weight of the knife. And so what's otherwise full of air will begin to pack. Don't do that. Give it 5 minutes to begin to cool off. And then you can put a nice sharp knife into it and it'll be perfect. So be patient, a little self-discipline. Okay, it has been waiting for us and we have certainly been waiting for it. 5 minutes, it's time to cut it.